Too late to say sorry, the millionaire finally recognized his ex-wife in the end. The divorce papers lay on the mahogany desk between them, crisp and formal, representing the death of 3 years of marriage. Rania stared at the documents, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for the gold pen Ferris had extended toward her without meeting her eyes. "Sign here," he said, his voice cold and detached as it had been throughout most of their marriage. "My lawyer has ensured you'll receive a fair settlement." Rania's throat tightened. Fair. As if money could compensate for the nights she'd waited alone, the anniversaries he'd forgotten, the love she'd poured into a vessel that never held it. She'd known from the beginning that Faris al-Rashid had married her out of duty to his family, not love. His mother had chosen her, a girl from a respectable but modest family, believing Rania's gentle nature would ground her ambitious son. How wrong they'd all been. "Faris," she whispered, her voice barely audible in his luxurious office overlooking Dubai's glittering skyline. "Can we not talk about this? About us?" His jaw clenched, the only sign of emotion in his handsome but distant face. "There is no us, Rania. There never really was. You know this marriage was a mistake from the start." Each word landed like a stone in her chest. She'd spent 3 years trying to be the perfect wife, learning his favorite meals, supporting his business ventures, befriending his colleagues' wives, waiting patiently for him to come home from late nights at the office or from wherever he truly spent his time. "Your mother is ill because of stress from her own health issues, not because of me," Rania said softly, remembering the harsh words Ferris's mother had spoken the previous week, blaming Rania for every family misfortune. "It doesn't matter anymore," Ferris replied, finally looking at her with those dark eyes she'd once hoped would soften toward her. "Sign the papers. We both deserve to move on." Move on. As if she'd been holding him back. As if she hadn't sacrificed her university dreams, her career aspirations, her own identity to become Mrs. Al-Rashid. Rania picked up the pen, her vision blurring with unshed tears she refused to let fall in front of him. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. With steady strokes, she signed her name on each required line, legally severing herself from the only man she'd ever loved. "I'll have my things removed from the house by tomorrow," she said, standing with as much dignity as she could gather. Ferris nodded, already turning his attention to his computer screen, dismissing her as he'd done countless times before. Rania walked out of his office, through the chrome and glass building that housed Al-Rashid Enterprises, and into the scorching Dubai afternoon. In her purse was a letter she'd written to Ferris the night before, pages of everything she'd never been able to say aloud, her love, her pain, her hopes for what they could have been. She left it with his secretary, knowing he'd probably never read it. 5 years had reshaped Rania Hamdan into someone she barely recognized from her former self. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows of her London penthouse, she reviewed the presentation for tomorrow's conference in Abu Dhabi. Her reflection showed a woman in tailored designer clothes, her hair styled in an elegant updo, confidence radiating from every gesture. The transformation hadn't been easy. After leaving Dubai, she'd returned to her family with nothing but her settlement money and a shattered heart. Her father, seeing the fire of determination beneath her pain, had encouraged her to pursue the business degree she'd abandoned for marriage. Rania had thrown herself into her studies with fierce dedication, graduating top of her class before earning an MBA from Cambridge. Now, at 32, she was one of the most sought-after international business consultants in the Middle East and Europe. Companies paid premium rates for her expertise in mergers and acquisitions. She'd learned to armor herself in professionalism, to trust her intellect over her heart, to never again make herself small for someone else's comfort. Her phone buzzed with a message from her assistant confirming her flight details. Abu Dhabi. She hadn't been back to the Emirates in 5 years, had carefully avoided any projects that might bring her into Ferris's orbit. But this conference was too important to miss. She was the keynote speaker on international business expansion. Across the Arabian Gulf, Faris al-Rashid sat in his Dubai office, the same one where he'd handed Rania divorce papers half a decade ago. His empire had doubled in size since then. Al-Rashid Enterprises now spanned real estate, technology, and international investments. Forbes had named him one of the region's most successful businessmen under 40. Yet success felt hollow in ways he couldn't quite articulate. His brief relationship with Lamia, the woman he'd once thought he loved, had ended disastrously within a year of his divorce. He'd realized too late that Lamia loved his wealth and status, not him. Since then he'd buried himself in work, building an empire but never a home. His mother had passed 2 years ago, her final words haunting him, You let go of a treasure for fool's gold, my son. Ferris shook off the memory and reviewed the conference schedule. He needed to network to find the right consultant for his company's upcoming merger with a European firm. His eyes caught on the keynote speaker's name, Rania Hamdan, International Business Consultant. A common enough name. He thought nothing of it. The next evening, the grand ballroom of Abu Dhabi's most prestigious hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers and networking executives. Ferris arrived late, slipping into the back as the keynote speaker took the stage. Then he saw her. A stunning woman in an emerald abaya-style business dress commanded the stage with natural authority. She spoke about global markets and cultural intelligence with brilliant insight, her voice clear and confident. Something about her gestures seemed familiar, the graceful movement of her hands, the way she paused for emphasis, but Ferris couldn't place it. He found himself captivated, not just by her expertise but by her presence. When she finished to thunderous applause, he knew he had to meet her. He didn't recognize his ex-wife at all. Rania's heart had nearly stopped when she'd spotted Ferris entering the ballroom during her speech. 5 years of preparation, of building herself into someone new, and still the sight of him threatened to undo her composure. But she'd pushed through, delivering her presentation flawlessly, years of professional training overriding personal emotion. Now, at the networking reception, she watched him approach through the crowd, champagne glass in hand, that same confident stride she remembered. She steeled herself, lifting her chin. "Ms. Hamdan," Ferris said, extending his hand with a charming smile that had once made her pulse race. "Ferris Al-Rashid. Your presentation was exceptional. Truly brilliant insights on cross-cultural mergers." His hand was warm, familiar. Rania shook it briefly, professionally. "Mr. Al-Rashid. Thank you. Your company's expansion into European markets has been impressive to observe from an industry perspective." Did he truly not recognize her? Rania had changed. She'd lost the softness she'd carried during their marriage, had learned to style herself differently, wore her confidence like couture. But surely something. "I wonder if we might discuss a potential consultation," Ferris continued, his dark eyes studying her with business interest, nothing more. "Al-Rashid Enterprises is pursuing a significant merger with a London-based firm. Your expertise would be invaluable." Rania's mind raced. Working with Ferris would be torture. Or perhaps the ultimate proof of how completely she'd moved beyond him. "I'm quite selective about my projects, Mr. Al-Rashid. My schedule is demanding." "I understand. Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner? Tomorrow evening?" The audacity. 5 years ago he couldn't spare her a single dinner at home. Now he wanted to wine and dine her for business purposes, completely oblivious to who she was. "A business dinner with my assistant present would be acceptable," Rania said coolly. "I'll have my office contact yours with available times." Over the next 2 weeks, Rania found herself drawn into Al-Rashid Enterprises' merger project. The deal was complex enough to be professionally challenging, and she convinced herself that was why she'd accepted. Not because some self-destructive part of her wanted to prove to Ferris what he'd lost. Their working sessions often stretched late into the evening. Ferris proved to be as brilliant in business as ever, their minds working in sync as they navigated the intricacies of international corporate law and market analysis. Despite herself, Rania felt the old intellectual connection they'd never quite had in their marriage, when he dismissed her opinions as those of an uneducated housewife. One night, working in his office conference room, Ferris loosened his tie as they reviewed contracts. "You're remarkable at this," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. "Where did you train?" "Cambridge," Rania replied, not looking up from the documents. "After a significant life change motivated me to pursue my postponed education." "I sense there's a story there," Ferris said softly, moving closer to point at a clause in the contract. His proximity sent unwanted warmth through her body. Someone's loss became the business world's gain. If only he knew how literally true that was. As Rania reached for her coffee cup, her sleeve slipped back, revealing a delicate silver bracelet on her wrist. Ferris's breath caught. That bracelet, he'd bought it years ago, a careless anniversary gift for a wife he'd barely noticed. His eyes shot to Rania's face, studying her with new intensity. The angle of her jaw, the curve of her lips, those eyes he'd looked through but never truly seen. "Rania?" he whispered, his face draining of color. "My God. Rania?" She met his gaze steadily, her expression neutral despite her racing heart. "That girl doesn't exist anymore, Mr. Al-Rashid. She died the day she signed your divorce papers." The silence in the conference room stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm. Ferris stumbled backward, his hand gripping the edge of the table for support as the full weight of recognition crashed over him. How did I not see it? His voice cracked with disbelief. All these weeks working together and I didn't see me? Rania finished, her tone sharp as a blade. You never saw me, Ferris. Not during our marriage and certainly not after. Why would now be any different? She began gathering her documents with precise movements, each gesture controlled and deliberate. Years of healing had prepared her for this moment, yet her hands still trembled slightly. Rania, please. Ferris moved around the table, his usual composure shattered. I need to explain. Explain what? She finally looked at him fully, and he flinched at the ice in her eyes. That you were too consumed by your empire to notice your wife? That you married me out of obligation and divorced me out of convenience? I lived that reality, Ferris. I don't need your explanations. I was blind. I was a fool. He ran his fingers through his hair, a gesture of frustration she remembered from their marriage. But these past weeks working with you, I felt something I never. The woman you've become. I didn't become someone new, Rania interrupted, her voice rising despite her efforts to remain professional. I always was this person. I had dreams, ambitions, intelligence, but you never cared enough to discover them. You saw only what you wanted to see, a convenient wife who wouldn't demand your attention or affection. Ferris's face contorted with anguish. You're right. God help me, you're completely right. I threw away a treasure for fool's gold, Rania said quietly, and Ferris's eyes widened. Yes, I know what your mother said. She wrote to me before she passed, apologizing for her part in our misery. She walked to the window, gazing at Dubai's illuminated skyline. How many nights had she stood at the window of their empty house, waiting for him to come home, wondering if she'd ever be enough. The merger project will be completed by my associate, Rania continued, her back still to him. I've already prepared comprehensive transition documents. You'll receive them tomorrow morning. My firm will waive the remaining consultation fees. I don't care about the merger. Ferris's voice was raw, closer now. Rania, I've been falling in love with you these past weeks. With your brilliance, your strength, the way you challenge me. She turned sharply. You've been falling in love with someone you think is a stranger. A woman who fits conveniently into your life now that you're ready. But I'm not convenient anymore, Ferris. I'm not waiting by the phone for calls that never come. I'm not making excuses for why my husband forgets our anniversary. I'm not that broken girl. I know, he whispered. And that's partly why. Rania, I found your letter. The one you left with my secretary 5 years ago. I found it last year when I was cleaning out old files. Rania's carefully constructed walls cracked slightly. You read it? Every word. Multiple times. Ferris's eyes glistened. You loved me unconditionally and I never deserved a moment of it. You wrote about the man you saw in me, the man you believed I could be. And I was too arrogant, too foolish to become him when it mattered. Words from the past can't change what happened, Rania said, but her voice had softened almost imperceptibly. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, Ferris said, taking a tentative step closer. But please don't disappear again. Not yet. Let me at least apologize properly. Let me show you that I finally understand what I lost. Rania studied him. This man who had broken her heart so thoroughly she thought it would never heal. She saw genuine remorse in his eyes, a vulnerability she'd never witnessed during their marriage. But she'd built a life without him, had learned to stand alone. It's too late for us, Ferris, she said softly, gathering her belongings. Some doors once closed can never be reopened. She walked toward the exit and Ferris didn't try to stop her, though everything in him wanted to. As she reached the door, she paused without turning. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you become the man you were always capable of being. Just not for me. Not anymore. The door closed behind her with a soft click that echoed like a gunshot in the silent room. For 3 months, Ferris didn't contact Rania directly. Instead, he began the painful work of becoming someone worthy of her, not to win her back, but because her words had awakened something dormant in his soul. He established a scholarship fund for women pursuing business degrees, funding it with a significant portion of his personal wealth. He read every book Rania had mentioned in their work sessions, trying to see the world through her eyes. He volunteered at organizations supporting divorced women rebuilding their lives, hearing stories that mirrored Rania's pain and recognizing his own failures reflected in countless faces. Most importantly, he went to therapy, finally confronting the emotional detachment that had poisoned his marriage and his life. Rania, meanwhile, returned to London and threw herself into work with renewed intensity. Yet she found herself distracted in ways she hadn't been in years. She'd check her phone hoping for messages that didn't come. She'd dream of late nights in the conference room, the electric tension when their hands accidentally brushed over documents. She told herself she was relieved he'd respected her wishes for space. She told herself the hollow feeling in her chest was simply old wounds reopening temporarily. She was lying to herself and she knew it. 4 months after their confrontation, Rania received an invitation to speak at a women's entrepreneurship event in Dubai, sponsored by the Al Rashid Foundation. The cause was too important to decline out of personal discomfort. The event was transformative, with hundreds of women sharing stories of resilience and ambition. During the reception, Rania noticed Ferris standing at the periphery, not networking or seeking attention, simply listening intently to a young entrepreneur describe her startup dreams. When their eyes met across the room, he didn't approach. He simply nodded with a small, sad smile, then turned back to his conversation. It was Rania who found herself walking toward him an hour later, her heart hammering. "The foundation is doing important work," she said quietly. Ferris turned and she noticed the changes immediately, a softness in his eyes, a groundedness in his bearing. "Thank you. I'm trying to support the dreams I once dismissed in someone very important." They stood in silence, the air between them charged with everything unspoken. "I've been seeing a therapist," Ferris said finally. "Learning why I was so afraid of intimacy, of vulnerability. Understanding the damage I caused through my emotional absence." He paused. "I'm not telling you this to win you back. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that your words changed me. You changed me." Rania felt tears prick her eyes. "Ferris, I don't expect forgiveness," he continued. "I don't expect another chance. But I needed you to know that loving you, truly loving you, seeing you, appreciating you, has become the measure by which I judge myself. Even if I can only love you from a distance." Something broke open in Rania's chest, not the scar tissue of old wounds but something new and terrifying. "Oh, I told myself I was over you," she whispered. "I built a life without you. A good life. You should keep it," Ferris said gently. "You deserve everything beautiful this world offers." "But I never stopped loving you," Rania admitted, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "I hated that I still loved you. I hated that even after everything, some part of me kept waiting for you to become the man I always knew you could be." Ferris's breath caught. "Rania." "I'm terrified," she interrupted. "Terrified that if I let you in again I'll lose myself. Terrified that you'll wake up one day and realize you've mistaken guilt for love. Terrified that I'm making the same mistake twice." "Then let's not make the same mistake," Ferris said, taking her hand carefully as if she were something precious and fragile. "Let's not rush into something broken and call it healed. Let me court you properly. Let me show you day by day that I see you now, that I value you, that I've finally grown into the man worthy of your extraordinary heart." Rania looked down at their joined hands, remembering all the times she'd reached for him only to find emptiness. But this felt different, tentative, honest, real. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we build something new. Not a restoration of what was broken, but something completely different." "Something better," Ferris agreed. "Something honest. Something where you never doubt your worth again." Rania took a shaky breath. "I'll need time. Patience. Proof that this change is permanent." "I'll give you forever," Ferris whispered. "However long it takes. However much you need." She looked up at him, seeing not the cold husband who'd divorced her, but a man humbled and transformed by loss. She saw her own reflection in his eyes, finally truly seen. "Then we start slowly," she said. "As two people getting to know each other for the first time." "I'd like that," Ferris said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her hand. "Getting to know the brilliant, remarkable woman I was too blind to discover before." As Dubai's lights sparkled around them, Rania felt the weight of 5 years of pain begin to lift. This wasn't the ending she'd imagined when she'd signed those divorce papers. It wasn't the fairy tale reconciliation where love conquered all without consequence. It was something more real, two broken people choosing to heal together, building not on the ruins of what had failed, but on the foundation of who they'd each become in the aftermath. And for the first time in 5 years, Rania allowed herself to believe in second chances, not because the past didn't matter, but because they'd both finally learned its lessons. The end.